What is going on, deck builders? I'm your friendly neighborhood host Alex. Thank you so much for joining me for episode number 10 of Super Budget Commander. Today I'm honing in on one of the most annoying mono blue commanders in all of EDH, Baral, Chief of Compliance. This deck is all about countering spells and disrupting our opponent's best made plans, and I hope you enjoy it. And as always, a Super Budget Commander deck has a maximum price of $50. Most of the cards featured in this deck list can be purchased for less than $1 each, and don't be fooled by the low price tag. A Super Budget Commander deck has a clear, consistent strategy and is built to win. Once again, thanks for hanging out with me. Now let's get started. Allow me to introduce you to the Chief of Compliance himself, Baral. The Chief of Compliance is not a wizard to be taken lightly. Baral's abilities demand that we play powerful counterspells at a reduced cost. This is absolutely a control deck. The idea is to lock our opponents out of the game and prevent them from playing anything of significance. Because we're in mono blue, we have to rely on low-costed but efficient mana rocks to ensure that we establish a board presence early on. Just because we're playing a monocolored deck doesn't mean we should let that slow us down. It's important to get out of the gates quickly and set the tone for the rest of the game. Mana ramp is the foundation of any deck. We can have all the amazing spells in the game, but if we can never cast them, they mean nothing. A key aspect of control is card advantage, and Baral gives us that on a stick. We may not always have Baral on the battlefield though, so it's important to have alternative methods of keeping our hand full of cards. Honestly though, Baral is the engine that makes this deck run. Being able to cast Anticipate, Impulse, Chart a Course, Frantic Search, all at a reduced cost is just so good. And because we'll be casting so many spells, delve spells like Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time have added value as well. We can even play a bit of politics with cards like Manifold Insights and Fact or Fiction. Forcing our opponents into choosing which cards we get in our hand is a great way to keep them on edge while also keeping our hand full of awesome cards. We also want to take full advantage of cards like Pull from Tomorrow and Stroke of Genius. Yeah, sure, they're simple, but they do their job very well, and they make sure that we always have spells to sling. I'm also a huge fan of Library of Lang and Archmage Ascension for this deck. Library of Lang not only allows us to keep as many cards as we want, it also pairs really well with Baral's loot ability, because we can intentionally discard cards that we still want to use because they'll go on top of our library rather than into our graveyard. And thanks to our massive amount of card draw ability, triggering Archmage Ascension and giving ourselves a tutor powerhouse might not be as difficult as you think. Counterspells are great, but it's equally important to have bounce spells that we can use to knock back any permanents we don't like to our opponent's hands. My personal favorite bounce spell is Capsize. Having the ability to buy it back is great for us and frustrating for our opponents. And if annoying creatures have you down, we've got spells like Rapid Hybridization, Reality Shift, and Curse of the Swine to take care of that real quick. And to really be extra annoying to our opponents, we have cards like Coastal Breach, Sphinx's Tutelage, and Telepathy. Sphinx's Tutelage gives us the option of milling our opponents every time we draw a card. Coastal Breach is essentially a 1 blue mana Cyclonic Rift in this deck. And of course, there's Telepathy, which just lets us look at all of our opponent's cards and see what we're dealing with. Go figure, the mono blue deck has plenty of counterspells to go around. Now, it isn't about throwing 50 counterspells in here and calling it a day. It's important that we have counterspells that are not only cheap to cast, but efficient in all stages of the game. Don't go throwing counterspells at everything that moves either. It's important to play patiently. Playing too aggressively with your counterspells in the early game will result in you getting ganged up on and killed immediately. Baral is very intimidating to a lot of commander players out there, so use that to your advantage. Keep people afraid that you constantly have a counterspell in hand and punish them for overreaching. If you're willing to play patiently and politically, this deck has the firepower to control entire tables and shut people out of the game. We also have creatures like Nimble Obstructionist that we can cycle to use like a pseudo stifle to shut off our opponent's combos. We can also flash it in as an effective chump blocker. We've also got our good buddy Curious Homunculus here to help out. Not only can he give us a little extra mana that we can apply towards our spells, if we flip him, which is pretty easy to do, he becomes a Voracious Reader, who is essentially a mini Baral with prowess. And let's not forget about our bargain bin Snapcaster Mage, aka Archaeomancer, who's fantastic at recurring an instant or sorcery spell that we desperately want to cast again. And of course I had to include Guile because he's pure evil. Being able to steal the spells we counter and use them against our opponents is just downright nasty. Now sometimes we might want to get really aggressive, and when that happens we're going to call on Talrand the Sky Summoner and Docent of Perfection. Both of these creatures allow us to build up massive armies and put our opponents on a very short clock. And seeing as we'll be casting a lot of instant and sorcery spells, Rise from the Tides gives us the ability to flood the battlefield with zombie tokens. Don't sleep on cards like Runechanter's Pike or Swiftfoot Boots either. The boots enable us to protect any of our important creatures, and the Runechanter's Pike, with enough spells in our graveyard, makes Baral capable of one-shot killing our opponents. The real artifact MVP of this deck though is Isochron's Scepter. Naturally, I've included a dramatic reversal that we can attach to the scepter, and when paired with a few good mana rocks, we can generate ourselves limitless mana. It isn't all about the dramatic reversal though. In fact, there's over 20 different spells in this deck that you can attach to the Isochron Scepter, so experiment with them all, cause a little chaos, and most of all, have some fun with it. Now, if you're looking to take this deck to the next level, the first place to start is with counterspells like Pact of Negation, Mana Drain, and Force of Will. Yes, I know they're expensive, but they're worth the cost. They're considered the best counterspells in the Commander format for a reason. They have the ability to change games. I'd also strongly recommend disruptive spells like Cyclonic Rift, Back to Basics, and Rhystic Study. If the goal is to shut down our opponents and maintain card advantage, few spells do that better than these ones. And if you're looking to improve the speed, efficiency, and combo potential of the deck, cards like Paradox Engine, Vidalcan Shackles, Mana Crypt, and other really quick mana rocks like it are the way to go. If you want to support my channel further and learn more about this deck at the same time, please check out the full deck list. A link to that is posted in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of Super Budget Commander. If so, let me know by leaving me a like. If you're new around here, subscribe and welcome to the Deck Builders Society. And you know what's up. Stay classy, deck builders. I'll see you next time.